Well, hello there, and welcome to Community Conversations. I already see Ick and Sticky in the chat. So, hello, Zach and Chris, and folks, feel free to say hello as you come in here. Super excited to be here with folks tonight. So, would love to hear who is here and where y'all are watching from as we jump in. So, I got to see Zach and Chris and Spence and Norway and Janet. And just hello, everybody. Feel free to say hi as you come in. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of our disclaimers so that we can get into the conversation tonight. But again, as I'm reading through these, please feel free to say hi in the chat. And again, to let us know where you're watching from or just how you're showing up tonight for IOCDF Community Conversations. So this live stream is educational and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please work with your provider or contact a local clinician. You can use the IOCDF's online resource directory at iocdf.org/find help to locate a trained clinician near you. And I want to say this every week. This is such an awesome resource. If you have not checked it out yet, this is such a great space to find a provider and to find evidence-based treatment in your area, which I know can be both life-changing and life-saving for a lot of folks. Also want to note that the International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. So if you are in a crisis or you're ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room or call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. You can also access online at www.988lifeline.org. And finally, we want to create a safe space here tonight and always, but we really want to be kind and respectful to everyone because at the end of the day, we are all here to support one another. So a note that this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and it's being recorded. So please keep that in mind as you chime in and as you ask questions and as you share. But at the end of the day, we really are here just to support one another on this shared journey with OCD. So thank y'all for being here tonight. And I'll say that Ethan and I have talked about having a community conversations theme song when folks come in. It's something about like, you bring the community, we'll bring the conversation. So if anybody has songwriting skills and wants to help us with that, we thought that would be super, super fun. I'm looking through who all is here. Again, I saw Janet and then I saw Chris, Julian, Spence, all sorts of things going on already. So awesome, y'all. So as we jump in tonight, it is just me tonight. It is not Ethan. And if there's anybody here who's new here with us, this is our live stream every Tuesday night, either with me or with Ethan or both of us. And some of y'all might remember from last week that today Ethan had his colonoscopy. And the reason I am mentioning that and bringing that up for anybody who was wondering is I've gotten some messages from folks today checking in because you might know that my partner, Ethan, who also has OCD, has health anxiety. And this has been a giant buildup. I actually don't know if Ethan's watching right now. I can't tell, but I will tell y'all that whether or not he's watching, it has been a giant buildup where we have had really 2 years of almost getting it and then not getting it for different reasons and rescheduling and all sorts of things. Just like Chris said in the chat, he had some challenging experiences in the past. So there was a lot of anxiety around this. So I think it's an anxiety provoking procedure anyway, especially with the prep going into it. But when you pair challenging experiences and health anxiety, that can feel super hard. So he was very anxious about that. He was very honest about that in the live stream last week. And I am happy to share that he absolutely killed it. He did such a great job. And I will say he was so brave these last couple days. And I wanted to just give a shout out to him with that. It was one of the bravest that I've honestly seen him in kind of combating his OCD. That prep solution, y'all, oh gosh, especially this morning when he did the second time around, he was having so much trouble getting it down. Oh my gosh. But what I'll say is me saying he's super, super brave is not that he wasn't scared, because being brave is not about not being scared. OCD is a big old jerk. It's always going to make us scared. But the way that he responded to it was really inspiring to me, both as his partner, but also just as somebody with OCD. And I watched him with some really intense intrusive thoughts. He had so many what ifs come up the last few days, especially because he had kind of a mass and some health related stuff that came up last year with kind of some challenging things. He was really worried about coming out of anesthesia and getting really scary results. So he kind of jumped from that to things around the prep to this to, and I watched him every time go from being really scared to saying, bring it on, like bring it on. And again, it wasn't that he wasn't scared. I know he was terrified, but he was using his non-engagement responses. He was putting his shoulders back. He was saying, bring it on to OCD. And I really thought he was going to be in a very different place with it than he was. Not because I don't have faith in him, but just because I knew how hard it was. And he was scared, but did it with confidence and so I just wanted to brag on him for a second because it's just really awesome. No, it wasn't Cologuard. I don't know a lot about the colon stuff, y'all. I'll be totally honest. I'm mid-30s female, so I'm not quite there yet. But he, well, I say that. And then also like I have friends who are the same age as me who are female who are getting that, but he is a little bit, y'all know Ethan's about 12 years older than me. So, he's a little bit further down the line with kind of having to do that on a more regular basis. So I'm not as familiar with the prep except in watching him, but he did Gatorade with it. He didn't have the pill. He had the stuff that he had to drink. And he had that both last night and today, and apparently it was like nasty. But the irony is one of my best friends had hers yesterday. He had his today, and my dad has his on Friday. So he was literally, I think in the midst of OCD, also felt like he had some camaraderie with the colonoscopy. Zach never wanted to drink Gatorade and broth ever again. So I will tell y'all, and then I swear I will get into other topics, but this does pertain to OCD. We were laughing so hard last night because both of us are not great cooks. I don't know, that's not like our forte. So we actually didn't know what to do with the broth. I literally texted my friend who also was having a colonoscopy yesterday and said, I put the broth in a bowl. Now what do I do with it? Do I put it in the microwave? Do we drink it cold? Like what's supposed to happen with this? So it was quite the process for both of us. He actually, so they brought me back from when he was coming out from being under anesthesia because he was really nervous about the results and what they were going to say, especially because this had been kind of a process of stuff for a while. And we already know he has really, really good results. So that's, we're very happy about that. And yeah, Zach, that's what we did, microwave in a tea mug, but we both were very skeptical about it. We were like, is this right? Is this not right? What's going on? And Sadie, welcome. I'm so sorry that your husband hurt his back, and it sounds like he's here with us too. So hard to be injured, to be in pain, and to have health OCD or to have health anxiety. And that's honestly why I was sharing a little bit about kind of what Ethan's been navigating, because he's had some health stuff come up the last year. And for somebody with health anxiety, it's been really challenging. What I will say for him, one of the reasons I was kind of sharing how brave he's been, he is in such a different place with health anxiety than he even was a year ago. And I think it's so interesting that we get to continue as we go through our life, even post-treatment, we get to kind of punch OCD in the face and make it a little bit smaller, right? And with kind of this piece, I don't know. I watched him like a year ago really struggle with some initial health dynamics. And just compared to, I don't know, I'm just reflecting on it as I talk, compared to kind of where he is now, it's really neat to see the way that he said, bring it on to OCD and really made it smaller. And Chris, thank you so much. Actually, so we specifically do this one as a community live stream. And the live stream with different therapists that comes on is actually tomorrow for Ask the Expert. So now this is really just me and Ethan, but we're going to start doing the first week of every month where we're going to have like some different advocates and stuff come on and things like that potentially. So yes, all the things, but we like doing this with y'all and just being able to kind of talk and have a community space. And Stacey, I am so sorry that you're struggling. that really does suck. And I would love to hear a little more about what that looks like. Um, so for folks who are here tonight, would love for you to kind of type into the chat where you are, what's going on. If you have any questions, I'm going to try to get through all of the questions tonight. But I also have a topic for us tonight that we want to dive into. And our topic is based on, we have some folks here who are a part of the Stick with the Ick community. It's based on our kind of same theme for the week, since Stick with the Ick is sponsoring this theme. And our theme is, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not good enough? And I'm curious for y'all, is there a character limit? That's a great question. It does cut it off on my end at a certain point. So I always tell folks, like, if it's beyond 2 sentences or so, or kind of make another piece, because I see it in this kind of weird format. So if it's super long, Julian, maybe break it into 1 or 2 things, but would love to hear how y'all are doing. I'm going to type this into the chat and would love to hear what y'all are thinking about this. So, has OCD ever made it feel like you weren't good enough? Or maybe even weren't good? And I'm gonna share a little bit what I mean about this theme. Again, this theme of feeling like we aren't good enough. I think for so many of us, this comes up in so many areas with OCD, where we feel like we're not good enough, that we aren't perfect enough, that we're not doing things in the correct way, that, well, maybe we've messed up. Maybe people don't like me enough. Maybe I'm not nice enough. Maybe I'm not even good enough at my treatment or my recovery, or maybe I'm not good enough at response prevention, or maybe I did my exposures wrong. It might even be about treatment. And I always say that for a lot of us, it goes beyond what if we're not good enough to what if we aren't good? What if we are not good? For me, with moral scrupulosity, this is, what if I'm not a good person? What if I'm just not good? And I used to very much come home when I was working in educational chaplaincy, and I would be doing treatment, and I would tell my therapist, well, I don't deserve to get better. I'm just not good. And she would say, what do you mean you're not good? You did this, that, and the other today. Like, no, but deep down somewhere, I'm bad, right? I just felt like I was bad. Like there was something wrong with me because of whether it's harm-related thoughts or sexual intrusive thoughts or false memories or real event or religious scrupulosity or contamination, whatever it is, whatever the content is. OCD often makes it feel like we're either not good enough or we're just not good. So would love, if you relate to this, to hear what this means for you. And in terms of just how y'all are showing up too. Yeah. Oh, Chris, feeling exhausted. Had an informative meeting with a chaplain named Katie about preaching. And then had a big dinner. Udon noodles with beef. Udon noodles sounds awesome. Yeah. Compulsive avoidance of intimacy, rejecting compliments. Okay. Yes to both of these. Have definitely experienced both of these in my own life. And the rejecting compliments piece, I've really been thinking about with this theme, honestly, where when people say something nice to us or say, "Ooh, you're really good at this," I'll say, for me, often my response, at least in my brain, is, but it really wasn't good enough, right? Like, did I actually do my best on that? Or what about this one mistake? Did they even know about that one mistake? Well, maybe they're just giving me a compliment because they're trying to make me feel good because they know I did such a bad job. So a lot of times we reject those compliments just because we feel like we're not good enough. And I'll say for me, a big exposure in going through treatment actually was to accept compliments, which was kind of awful for me. I have a really tough time with that. And I'm curious how y'all feel about this. How do you receive compliments? For me, my tendency has always been to say, oh, yeah, no, it's no big deal. Or no, I really didn't do that good of a job. Or it was mostly this other person. And I think for a lot of us, there's kind of an OCD dynamic there. Sadie, OCD makes me feel so stupid and a failure. And I'm so sorry. Sadie, you are so not alone with that experience. And also, OCD sucks. It is such a jerk. It really is. It is such a bully and a liar. And I always want to go back to the idea that feelings aren't facts. They're not facts, but the feelings really do feel hard in those moments. I always say feelings aren't facts, but feelings are valid. So we are so deserving of all of the compassion around those really challenging feelings, and they're also not true. So I just want to give you a big hug because it sucks when it makes us feel like that. And it's not the truth. And I'm so sorry. Mm. Oh, I hate that. There's this guy who works in the dining room. He thinks I'm an idiot because I have OCD. And here's the irony, Julian. Um, I really think folks that I know with OCD are some of the smartest, kindest, most creative, awesome human beings. And I swear it's not just because I have OCD. It's really because of people I've met in this community. They're the most amazing, just brilliant people. And I'm just so sorry you feel like that. Because again, absolutely not true. Yeah, OCD brings a lot of shame. I was presenting at a conference on Friday, and I did one presentation on OCD and grief, and the other was on OCD and guilt. And as a part of that, I was talking about differentiating guilt from shame. And a lot of times I'll say that guilt is, oh no, I've done something wrong, and shame is I am bad. It's we kind of make that our identity. And with OCD, whether or not we've done something wrong, because we generally just feel guilty no matter what, I'll just say I do. We jump really quickly though from that guilt to shame. We go, oh, I've done something wrong, AKA I've made any mistake ever by being human. That must equal shame. That must equal I'm bad. That must equal I'm not deserving. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. I'm a bad person. All of these things. And there's so much shame with that. So much shame. And I think this is one thing that keeps folks really stuck. Like we often talk, of course, about discomfort in the form of anxiety or in the form of fear. But discomfort also comes in a lot of other forms. And that might be in the form of guilt or shame or disgust. It can show up in a lot of different ways. Like other people make mistakes at work and I'm understanding. But if I do, I'm sure I'm just not good enough at my job. Yeah, red balloon. I feel this one to my core, and I'm sure other people do too, that we can kind of give other people grace that we have trouble giving ourselves. Like other people make a mistake at work, or other people make a mistake in life, or say the wrong thing, or do the wrong thing, and we're like, oh wait, no, they're human, totally fine. But when we do, it's like, no, I can't give myself any grace. I am expected to have everything together. I see this a lot, even in my work with religious scrupulosity, really across religious and spiritual traditions, where folks will say, oh, yeah, no, I really believe that God is fine with all these other people being human and like messing up and making mistakes. But me, I'm on this pedestal somewhere and I have to be perfect. And y'all, I want you to know, we are so deserving of the same compassion that we offer to every single person around us. And yeah, it looks like others are agreeing that yes, when we make the mistake, we feel like we're not good enough. And I would really encourage y'all to kind of think tonight with this theme in particular about like, well, what does it mean to give yourself the exact same compassion that you would give to literally any person around you? What does it look like to take what you're experiencing and give yourself that same love, to respond the same way that you might to a friend? Oh, I feel this one too, Brian. My earliest memory of OCD was in kindergarten, diagnosed with magical thinking. I'm 49 and still struggling. Well, first of all, Brian, I'm so sorry, and I'm so glad that you're here with us tonight. My earliest memory also was pretty young. I'm writing a book on scrupulosity right now, and was writing. A lot of times I kind of separate my personal stuff from professional work, and my editor was like, nope, you need to go back and include personal stuff. And I started writing about this story for the first time, where I was really stuck in elementary school around the idea that I had to keep everybody safe because of something that I learned, and that I needed to do compulsions in this certain way in order to protect the planet. And I look back and it's so painful to think of little me doing that when I see her in that way or when I see pictures. And I just want to give her a big hug. And I think it can be such a practice, at least for me, to then try to look at myself now and say, okay, I am deserving of just as much compassion as little Katie is. But I'm so sorry that you're also still struggling. And I think OCD can just be so challenging. And I want y'all to hear, I believe wholeheartedly that there is hope and that there is recovery. And I will always talk about that. And I'm happy to talk more about what that looks like. And OCD also sucks. It really, really sucks. And Brian, just glad you're here with us. Really glad you're here. And thanks for sharing that. Yeah, no, absolutely. That people with OCD do have above average intelligence. There's some kind of neat studies on this as well. Yes, so much shame linked to OCD. I was first aware and focused during a long time on fear, but I discovered years later the huge damage of shame in my life. Yeah, I think so many of us for a long time in treatment really focused on fear and anxiety. And a big piece for me actually was even targeting shame and guilt as a part of my exposures and even practicing the sensation of sitting with those feelings. I'm very open about the fact that I'm a chaplain, I work in the OCD space, and I still go to therapy. And I really believe that, especially for helping professionals, we really should all be in therapy and getting support so that we, I don't know, we're able to put our stuff somewhere so we can support other people. And I was literally talking to my therapist about this week because the feelings that I still have the most difficulty with, honestly, are guilt and shame, and actually sitting with those things. And one of the things that we still practice doing, that I was literally practicing, I guess Monday's yesterday at 1:00 was letting that guilt and shame come up and naming where I feel it and just letting it be there without trying to get rid of it. And Sarah, I'll say that for me is still probably the hardest thing. Yeah, Spence, imposter syndrome. I think so many of us have imposter syndrome. I very much have that in the clergy space and in the work that I do around mental health. I think we all do, especially with things that we care so deeply about, where we feel like we're an imposter or we're not good enough or we're not supposed to be doing that, or like people are looking at us in a specific way. That can feel super, super hard. Can I take an after meal nap? Is this hey, no judgment, Chris. We are glad you're here with us, awake or asleep. We'll see if the osmosis thing works. I love Zach's response, especially with this. Yes, in chat exposures might make you a terrible person, but we are willing to sit with that. Yeah, it often feels like if we don't listen to OCD, like it is the end of the world. And if we don't succeed in something, our OCD treats us just absolutely horribly. And again, OCD really comes in there and tells us, well, if you don't listen to me, this thing is going to happen, or this thing is not going to happen, right? Depending on what's meaningful to you and depending on your values. And I think one of the things that I hear from folks the most is, well, I know that this isn't rational, right? I know that I don't actually have to do this thing, but what if I do? This stuff's really important to me. So what if I don't do this compulsion and then something bad really does happen? Like, what if I do? Like, And I think it really tricks us with that. Let's see. Okay, where was I here? Early book title. Yeah, so I am locked into my book title, actually, Zach. I had to, when I signed my book deal, like that ship has sailed. I do like the There Goes the Sun, though, with like my fear of the sun getting too close to the earth. But it's called The Endless What Ifs When OCD Hijacks Faith and Morality. But there may be, I may be able to squeeze in a There Goes the Sun chapter title. I do really like that. Oh, yeah. And thank you, Chris. I did a post this week about kind of little Katie and the obsessions and compulsions. And I appreciate that. I think we are all OCD pioneers kind of together, and everybody here is really advocating together, even showing up and just sharing here in the chat tonight, which is a really beautiful thing. Ooh, Lily, great question. What comes first? Shame then OCD or OCD then shame? Guilt before OCD or OCD then guilt? Short answer is I am not entirely sure. I actually talked about this in the presentation on Friday, and there is some really really neat research actually from Caitlin Pinciotti, who Caitlin, if you're watching, I don't know if you are, but hello, we love you. You're amazing. And she actually recently did some amazing research that's getting ready to be published and in the world about this. And this idea that some people have experiences specifically of grief prior to OCD. And that kind of like feeds into their OCD. Some people have periods of grief during their OCD, and then some people experience grief after because of OCD. And I see really the shame and guilt piece in a similar way. Yeah, Chris, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I think that I'll say, especially with scrupulosity, this is strictly anecdotal, but often individuals are predisposed to have OCD. But when we grow up in certain environments and are told certain things or experience certain things, then maybe OCD is going to show up in that particular way, right? Other times, when I think about scrupulosity, someone might have OCD and is looking for certainty and might wind up in specifically an environment that claims to give them certainty or that kind of enforces shame. But I think sometimes there's the shame piece first. Sometimes there's a shame piece after. But again, I go back to, I think typically we're kind of predisposed to have OCD, and then the ways it shows up are sometimes based on either the things that are important to us or the things that we experience. I know for me, it's always been about the stuff that's really important to us. But a lot of times I will say that I really believe OCD can cause guilt and shame, whether it's because we feel guilt and shame for our intrusive thoughts or for having OCD. But also, and that can be kind of the form of discomfort it takes on. But I also think there can be this kind of other piece where we're experiencing guilt and shame and are predisposed to have OCD, and we want to get rid of the guilt and shame. So we kind of end up in the cycle. So kind of like Chris is saying, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And what I'll say, I will kind of quote my therapist in saying, the cool thing is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter the why. It doesn't matter. I spent so many years trying to figure out like, well, why do I have OCD? I think I was predisposed, but like, when did this thing really hit? Like, what does this look like? And the cool thing is, as far as treatment goes, it really doesn't make a difference. I tell folks, let's stop worrying about the why, but let's worry about like the how, in terms of like the how do we actually engage in treatment? How do we make OCD smaller? How do we keep moving toward our values? Oh, the most important question. I'm so glad that you like the dots. Did you repaint your wall or did you move your certificates to another wall? Did I repaint? Oh, you mean because the certificates? So, actually, the dots have been there. I just think my camera angle is a little bit different. But initially, when y'all used to see me do live streams, like 2 years ago before we moved, I was in a really different space. But here, I've always kind of had them. I think my camera angle is just a little different. But I will let you in on a secret. They are not paint, so they are not all that fancy. These are literally wall stickers because I wanted to stick with the like colored things and pink related stuff. So if you notice the pink on the certificates, I think I haven't shared this in a while on these streams. Pink for me is very much an exposure color because for such a long time, kind of along with this theme, I felt like I wasn't good enough and I felt like I wasn't actually worthy of experiencing joy. So I went through a whole period where I tried to get rid of anything that made me happy at all, because it made me feel too guilty. I felt like my intrusive thoughts were too intense and I was too much of a bad person, that I just didn't deserve it, didn't deserve recovery. So I actually stopped wearing pink because pink was my favorite color. And again, if this is, something someone wants to do, that's totally fine, but it wasn't aligned with me. I started wearing all black. I cut all my hair off and it wasn't reflective of me and who I was because I really was doing it compulsively. I was doing it because I didn't feel like I deserved to do something that made me feel good. So actually a part of my treatment was to wear pink and to do things that made me experience joy. And weirdly, I felt a lot of guilt and even a lot of shame for doing that because I felt like I didn't deserve it because of the intrusive thoughts. So pink kind of became my exposure color, and it's why it's kind of tied into a lot of the work that I do now around scrupulosity. But where I used to live in Georgia, I took one of my like degrees certificates back to get it reframed in pink because of it being kind of my exposure color. And the person actually like shamed me for that. She was like, "Oh, that's super unprofessional. And you're going to really regret this when you get older, having a degree framed in pink." And it like really irked me for some reason. So I actually kind of made it a thing where every time I got a new thing, it was like really big with my doctorate, I went back to the same place and made them frame it in pink because I just wanted to be like, "Oh, I'm going to keep doing this." So I don't know. It's kind of a thing. Anyway, that was Beth, I'm so glad you're here. And you're changing the crappy food right now and you're listening to us. So glad you are here. Love, love, love. Yeah, Norway, thanks for sharing this. Before treatment, my contamination issues forced me into a very restrictive and weird diet, which ended up giving me some serious stomach problems. Yeah, Norway, I think this can be such a common thing across themes. And I'm not just talking about the food or the stomach problems, but OCD can really create the reality that we're afraid of. So, what I mean by that is it says, in order to stay safe, you need to do this thing. In order to stay safe or to be good enough or to be good, you have to do this thing, right? And the reality is, often by listening to OCD and doing the thing, it's kind of moving us further away from the things that we really care about. It's moving us further away from the things that are actually kind of meaningful and important to us. So I always give the example for a mother who is having intrusive thoughts about her child. She might stop picking up her child. She might stop engaging with her child. And OCD says, "Oh, you're keeping your child safe." The reality is she's actually creating kind of a barrier between her and her child. It's moving her further away from the stuff she cares about. And I see this sometimes with food related OCD or contamination, where it's like, oh, in order to stay safe or healthy, whatever the restriction is kind of based on, you need to do this to be safe, when it ends up kind of creating something different. So I think OCD is such a jerk like that. And I just really appreciate that. And please do not feel dumb trying to explain it to the ER. I know that can suck. And gosh, I've had the situation of trying to explain things that didn't make a lot of sense with OCD, well-meaning, very confused, but so real, such a real experience. Yeah. Red Balloon, this really fits with this theme too. The number of ways I was described before I was diagnosed. I remember an early therapist describing my moral compass as too sensitive. And I always like to imagine that we have an alarm that keeps going off, or we have a faulty spam filter. If you imagine the spam filter in your email, it kind of filters stuff out. I imagine that our spam filter kind of does the opposite. It literally flags and puts a star next to stuff that isn't actually important, but that seems really urgent or is really about the things that we care about. And for folks that morality is really important to them, that's really what happens. Our moral compass gets so big, right? Like we have to think about everything. We become so incredibly sensitive to every single area. But the irony is it a lot of times takes us away again from the stuff that we really care about. I can think of situations that I look back on now from school chaplaincy where I was so looped into moral scrupulosity that I actually missed supporting very real people in front of me with what they were experiencing, because I was kind of off over here trying to fix other moral quandaries that weren't really my responsibility. And it's such a jerk like that. Again, it's taking us away from those things that are really important and that are right in front of us. Thanks for sharing this, Chris. I think the hardest part of feeling not good enough is that I often think other people think I'm not good enough. I pay attention to what culture or God says is good enough morally and romantically. Yeah, Chris, thanks for naming this. This is a hard piece. And I think often with OCD, there's this additional layer of, what if other people think I'm not good? What if other people think I'm not good enough? And we start to really fixate on that. And I'll say for me, for a long time, it was, every email or every text or every facial expression. It would be like, yep, nope, they're making that facial expression because they think I suck. They think I'm not good enough. They really don't like me. And we pay attention to all of those little things. And we can get so looped into, again, what culture or religion or social media, I think, is such a huge thing, says is good enough. When the reality is, we are all good enough and deserving of love and compassion and empathy and recovery just by being human. But it's so hard when we see ourselves through this really challenging lens and then also try to imagine how everybody else sees us. I'll go ahead and tell you my default that I still work really hard against is that everyone must hate me. And it's a hard thing to fight against. And I mean, I've been in recovery for a long time. I live a really beautiful life, but for me, still the what if I'm bad and what if people hate me is where I get really stuck. And I'll be honest, one of the things I'm really trying to lean into through an ERP lens this year is being okay with not everybody liking me. And honestly, that feels really hard and scary for me to even say out loud because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is on a live stream now. People are going to hear me say that I don't really, but it's hard, and definitely curious from others if you have the same experience. Amy, that's awesome. Congratulations for making it through your doctor's appointment. That is so awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us. And we get to cheer for you along with Ethan and his doctor's appointment today, kind of in solidarity. And that's just awesome. Thank you so much for the update for us this week. I really appreciate that. Yeah. And the ideal, the ideal is, I don't know. It's not actually realistic, y'all. We put this ideal up here that none of us actually meet. And I'll say, especially with social media, not to go on a whole like social media rampage, but I've been talking to a lot of folks with scrupulosity recently who compare themselves to everybody on social media. And social media, it's not real, y'all, or it often isn't. It's often people kind of putting their best filtered selves forward. And when you sit there and you compare to, well, I need to be that, or I need to have that kind of relationship, or I need to do this kind of thing, like, man, we can't live up to that. Like, we are totally good just the way we are. I'm laughing at Zach. Zach, life transformations there. I so appreciate that. That's awesome. And Chris, I will totally tell you that the tricks for annoying people and getting your degrees framed in whatever color you want. And Zach, yeah, we might all be good enough. Maybe not. Red Balloon. I don't know if you saw, I had a reel on this last week on Instagram and TikTok and a couple other places that literally, and YouTube, I think, that was literally this. And I was like sitting in the bathroom and I was like, the scariest thing in the entire world happened to me this week. And like the text popped up and it was somebody saying, okay, ... And I was like, what is this? Oh my gosh, they hate me. What does that mean? So here's what's really funny. I'm gonna laugh if she's on here. I don't think she is. So I feel weird calling her out. So Kim Quinlan, who is a dear human and wonderful friend who I love so much, as a joke, then texted me just out of the blue when she saw that reel, okay, ... But it was like a day after I had posted that reel and I had actually forgotten that I had posted that reel. So I thought she was actually texting me, okay, ... just out of the blue because she was like really mad at me. So I saw it and I had like just like all of 30 seconds, brain combustion of, oh my gosh, Kim is mad at me. She hates me. She sent me okay, ... And it was literally, she was like poking at my reel and then I laughed my butt off and it was really funny. But the K texts, so one of my good friends was asking me right after that, like, what's the worst text to get? Is it okay, ... Is it just okay, period? Is it K with nothing? Is it K with a period? So I'm curious what y'all think. What is the scariest text response to get from an OCD or social anxiety perspective? I start mind reading. Oh, yeah. Julian, totally get this. I can't do anything about it because I'm outnumbered right now, but I know exactly what you think of me. Yeah, mind reading is such a challenging cognitive distortion. It really is. And I think, I'll at least say for me, when I start, it's easy to get caught up in that and to continue to mind read and to look around and to look at faces. I used to really struggle with that both when I was in the classroom and also when I was preaching sermons in large spaces, where I would look at the people in the front row and kind of try to gauge what their faces were doing. And like, wait, are they like cringing? Does that mean they don't like what I'm saying? What's going on? So that can feel really tough when we start mind reading. Absolutely. Yeah, and the piece with the comparison, the entertainment industry absolutely doesn't help us in that area. Yeah. Mm. My forebrain keeps moving the goalposts on what is good enough and feeding off my mental compulsions. Yeah. So, and I think the more we do these mental compulsions, right, to try to prove that we're good enough, to try to be good enough, anything like that, you're right. We can never get there. The goalpost keeps moving further out. Well, if you do this one more thing, right, like then maybe you'll get to be good enough. It's so there is no end. And this is kind of a piece with compulsions in general, right? It always feels like if I do this one more compulsion, I will be able to tie it up in a bow and I can go off and live my life and I can be happy and it'll be fantastic. At least that's how I always felt. And it's always a lie. It is never good enough. The goalpost is always a little bit farther of, nope, you need to do this one more thing. Or we can't be totally sure. So why don't we do this one extra thing here? Yeah, Stacy, I'm so glad that you're naming the intensity of that feeling, the icky anxiety feeling in your stomach. And that's literally, so the name Stick with the Ick came out of that concept of it literally just feeling like icky, it feeling like the ick, and there not being a better way to describe it. And yet with OCD treatment, we're told to stick with it, to just kind of hang out and move through it. But I want to go ahead and name it sucks. It absolutely sucks. I think for me, handling that icky feeling, and I'm curious for others, but it's about practice and practicing not getting rid of it, practicing sitting with it and naming it. So for me, again, like I'm thinking about the work I was doing yesterday. It's literally sitting and saying, okay, I feel anxious or I feel guilty, whatever the discomfort is, and naming, okay, where am I feeling that right now? Like, okay, I'm feeling it in my stomach. It feels like I have a jumbo pile of bricks here right now. My palms feel sweaty. Okay, I'm going to intentionally let myself feel this for a little bit. I am intentionally going to let this be here. And here's, I'm curious what others think about this, but here's the irony. When we let that really icky feeling be there, when we don't try to get rid of it, when we don't try to fix it or don't try to resolve or analyze, it often starts to lessen and it often starts to fade. And we know that's kind of the whole premise of ERP too, right? Is we're intentionally making ourselves anxious. We're doing something to bring on that obsession and then to bring on that discomfort so that we can practice the response prevention of not doing the compulsion. And really, that's just a fancy way of saying we're letting the icky anxiety feeling be in our stomach without trying to get rid of it. And the more we do that, the more we learn, one, that it's not a threat, and also we just get to kind of learn to sit with it, and it starts to decrease and it starts to not feel so intense. And I always want to name that I get what I'm saying. I understand that what I'm saying sounds absolutely horrendous and sounds like it doesn't make any sense. Because when folks used to tell me this, I used to think like, okay, you're telling me to have a bear stand in front of my face and not to like run away or scream, but to just like stand there and chill. That's literally what it feels like. And I know for me, I always talk about, I used to, when I was doing response prevention, physically get sick because of the level of anxiety that I felt. And oh my gosh, it was so worth it. And that icky anxiety feeling does fade, but it will trick you into it feeling like, well, this is going to be forever. And you have to do a compulsion to get rid of that. And it is lying. But it feels so hard at the same time. Yeah. So much pressure I see from folks talking about the actors and the models and movies and things like that too. Oh, back to the really scary texts. Okay, scary texts that we get. dot, 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 or dot, 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 dot. Very scary. This one I do not like. I also wonder if folks experience anxiety when somebody is taking a long time to text back and you can see that they're typing. So you see the dot, 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 but then they stop and then they start again and then they stop and they start again. And you're like, man, why are they thinking about this so hard? Is this something awful? I don't know. I think this was to the text thing too. Like emoji, any emoji for me that is not like a smiley face or hug or whatever feels really anxiety provoking. Yeah. In a text. What? The thumbs up. Okay. Yes. So I am somebody who always either hearts or exclamation points things. The thumbs up. I don't know why. The thumbs up kind of stresses me out. Y'all, these are great. These are great. Yeah, I totally get that, Stacy. And I trust me, I get it. And that doesn't mean that you have to stay and concentrate on that the rest of the day. You can work with I think you can work with your therapist also on like, okay, what does it look like as a part of my exposure practice to focus on this and to let it be here? And then we got to kind of do some act practice even of, okay, what does it look like to let this be here while doing something value driven or while stepping forward with behavioral activation. But I know it feels miserable. And I think that's what really keeps us stuck, right? Is OCD says, well, if we let this feeling be here, we won't be able to concentrate. We're going to feel miserable. We can't do anything. And I think we get to kind of with ERP and the work that we do with our therapists, and it might not be all at once. It might not be totally and completely letting all the stomach stuff be there today. But working with your therapist, even on a hierarchy around some of this, I think can be such a beautiful thing because we get to build up to telling OCD, like, no, I can freaking sit with this. Like, I really, really can. Because I just, gosh, and I so know, Stacy, again, I go back to literally throwing up between classes I would teach because I felt so blah. And I am so glad still that I took my life back from OCD and leaned into that with ERP. And I know that, gosh, it feels so scary and it feels so hard and it's absolutely miserable. And I just want you to know I see that and I know that. And I still believe it is so worth leaning into the misery. I mean, that's why we say the stick with the ick piece. It's like, man, we are sticking with the ick, literally that ick, in favor of something beautiful. Yeah, Sadie, what's your first thing you do when you realize OCD has popped in? I don't know how to approach it when I have to face it. Yeah, this is awesome. This is a great question, Sadie. And I see lots of response here. Zach, swear, yeah, we automatically like, man. So no, that's super funny. But with approaching it, I think there's a lot of strategies to this, which of course I would encourage y'all to talk with your therapists and to kind of look at this with your therapist through the lens of your treatment. But with this, I like to notice the thought. And I like to do, if I'm starting to get stuck on it, I like to do a little bit of diffusion and kind of separate myself from the thought. And that's kind of an ACT concept. And what I mean by that is you're looking at the thought rather than from the thought. So if I get a thought of like, oh gosh, what if I'm a horrible person? I might specifically say, I notice that I'm having a thought that I'm a horrible person. Okay. Notice I'm having that thought. Oh, wow. I can even notice myself noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm a horrible person. We're kind of separating ourselves from it. We're recognizing it's just a thought. That doesn't mean that it's a truth. And with approaching it, depending on kind of where you are in treatment, I think we have a really neat opportunity to not engage with it. Now, that might be not engaging with it at all and just kind of moving on from noticing you have the thought and moving on with your life. Or it might be specifically using things like non-engagement responses, which I have to give credit to the awesome Dr. Lisa Levine for this. That may be using things like maybe not, or it may be telling the thought, oh, bring it on. Or it may be, oh, you know what, that would suck, OCD, but I'm really not going to listen to you today. It's really naming that this is just a thought and making the choice not to engage with it. Now, this isn't necessarily a 1-2 punch or a 1-2 step process. At least for me, especially when I get looped into a thought, sometimes that response prevention piece with it, or that non-engagement piece, is something that I have to keep doing, because I'll get re-pulled back in mentally. And as soon as that I notice myself engaging in a compulsion or ruminating, the approach is, up, you know what? I'm noticing this again, and I'm going to make an effort to come back to the moment. How can I plug into something that's going on around me, even though this feels really hard, even though this feels really irresponsible? Um, and with this, I think I always think of ERP like the practice for this moment. So when we're doing planned exposures in therapy, it's literally about practicing for this moment when OCD pops in. So the hope is that as we move through ERP, it almost becomes kind of second nature, so that when that thought pops in, we get to go, oh yeah, you know what? This is what I did with my therapist last week. I literally can do response prevention right now in that same way that I did with that thing that I planned. So sometimes I'll also like to think about OCD popping in as an unplanned exposure and as an opportunity to make OCD smaller. So some folks that I work with scrupulosity probably are super annoyed that I frame it like this. But I am always like, yes, man, we got an intrusive thought. What a stellar opportunity to make OCD smaller. Let's crush OCD a little bit today, or let's squish OCD. For anybody here seen Hoppers? Squish it. I don't know. I'm curious if folks saw Hoppers. It's an adorable movie if you have not seen Hoppers. Yeah, lots of shame here in the chat too. Totally get that. Um, mm, Ooh, Sarah, I am not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that at all, actually, but I am actually after this live, I'm like making a mental note so I'm looking at what time it is on this so I can go back and look at this after and look into this. So this, I feel like I would be really interested in that. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. I know that can be so intense, Stacy. I'm so sorry. And I just want you to know you are so brave and such a rock star, and we love you, and you are an OCD warrior for sure. And OCD is such a freaking bully, and just you're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm definitely curious kind of where you are in the journey with that right now, and what that looks like kind of from a therapy perspective and things like that. And are there things that are feeling helpful to you right now? Are there spaces, even with sitting with something where, are you finding that there's spaces where you can maybe practice sitting with something for a short amount of time? What does that look like? Because I think it's not an all at once thing. At least it wasn't for me at all. It was a long, slow process. And I just want you to know that we're in that and here for you. Oh gosh. Scary texts. Sarah, I'm getting anxiety just seeing these texts. Can we talk? I need to talk. Both of those, gosh, man, anytime somebody texts me like, can we talk, or I need to talk, I'm like, about what? Can you at least let me know what it's about? Right? Okay, period. Basically anything with periods and no exclamation marks. Yes. Again, Sarah and I have found many times that we are like the same person. Yeah. If there aren't like 6 exclamation points and like a sunshine or a heart, I'm pretty convinced that I am dead to you and that you hate me. Oh yeah, that's a stressful piece too. Yeah. Oh, yes, Daryl. This was, I don't know if you've been on the stream with us the whole night. Earlier, I was mentioning that I did a couple of presentations on Friday, and one was on guilt and OCD, which we've talked some about tonight. The other was on grief and OCD, and was talking a little bit about Caitlin Pinciotti's research as a part of that, where she talks a lot about grief, both before and during and after OCD treatment. Yes. This is so common and such a painful experience, and something that I think isn't talked about enough. And grief, there can be so many different types of grief. And I was sharing with the clinicians on Friday that oftentimes we immediately think of a death, but a grief can be or grief can be any type of loss. And I think one of the biggest losses that folks with OCD experience, that we experience, is loss of time, loss of life, loss of good, beautiful years. And it might be really specific things like loss of ability to go to graduation, loss of a wedding. It might be loss of having kids, loss of just the ability to show up and be present. There is so much grief in that. So I just want you to know you are not alone in that. I talked about that for a long time Friday, but I've also experienced it. My partner Ethan has experienced that as well. So much so that he's doing some treatment now kind of around that experience. And you are so not alone in that. And what I always tell folks is it's valid to grieve what we've lost. And it doesn't have to be black and white. We can hold that grief and we can grieve the things that OCD has taken from us. And we can also step forward with hope and optimistic uncertainty for the life and gratitude for the life that we've reclaimed. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. And I think a lot of times when we go through treatment or go through recovery, and I'm so glad that you got treatment in Boston and that you had the opportunity to really dive into ERP. But I think a lot of times we come out of that and think like, man, I'm supposed to be just really grateful for everything and really hopeful. Okay, what do I do with this grief? What do I do with the time that I've lost? And you are so deserving of the space to feel all of that too. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally get this. Totally me when OCD pops up. Mm. Yeah, I'm experiencing strong OCD during prayer time and meditation. It absolutely sucks. So much anxiety linked to prayer for me, and it makes me sad. Yeah, 10,000%. This is a lot of what I talk with folks about around scrupulosity. And I go back to the idea, I know Zach is here, so Zach's going to like this because Zach likes the ice cream piece. I always say that OCD is really nasty ice cream that happens to show up in a lot of different gross artificial flavors. And those artificial flavors tend to be about the things that we care the most deeply about. So if prayer is important to you, if spirituality is important to you, if meditation is important to you, like of course OCD is going to latch onto that. And it does suck. And I think it does make us sad because it takes us away from those things that we care about. And I want to go back to the piece that I really believe with treatment and with support and even specific exposures around prayer and meditation. I've seen people reconnect with their faith and their spiritual life more deeply than they did even before. So I want you to know that there's hope in that too. Sarah, I know you had this experience. If your kid gets stomach bug and you can literally be stuck in the ick. Yeah, that's, I know you've been there. Love that. Thank you, Chris. I'm so glad. And I think this can look so different for each of us, right? And I'm glad that we get to be together on this journey. Yeah, Lauren, this is a great question, and I might have to think about this a little bit more. Feel free to email me to you about this one, because just right OCD can be so hard, and every type of OCD we know can be so hard. But it's so hard when it starts to take over your day, right? Where it's all day, every day, where you avoid treatment, where you can't work and you can't function. And I'm curious. I know you said what to tell someone who's experiencing this and is delaying getting help. What's their delay? Are they willing to get help? Are they in a space where they're just so stuck because of their exposures? Would they, if help was presented to them, if someone was able to kind of give them specific resources, this is what you need to do. I think sometimes in these cases, residential programs can be really great, or more intensive programs, because it kind of takes someone out of that environment where they have a structure around, okay, I get to integrate this into my day. But I wonder if this person that you're talking about, I know they're delaying getting help, but if it was presented to them like, okay, here's some options, like, let's do this. Is that something they would be open to? And if so, Lauren, if I can make recommendations or help with that too, I'm more than happy to. Oh, I think this was in reference to Hoppers. I promise I'm not going to go on a rampage about this movie, or a rampage. Is not even the right word, but yes, it is so cute. It's a Disney Pixar movie. I know this is not like a Disney Pixar ad, but it was adorable. And I pretty much laughed the entire movie. It was also really heartwarming, just in the midst of so many different things going on in the world. There was so much love and so much heart, and it was also just hilarious. I won't give anything away. It's about beavers, but it's like, it's so cute, y'all. It is just so cute. I know we are at our 8 o'clock, but I do want to get through these last couple questions here. So sometimes I'll feel the anxiety first, and then my mind starts searching for what's wrong, but I catch myself and say, it's just a feeling. It doesn't mean anything is wrong that I have to fix, and it passes. Susan, this is so awesome. I also think I see your picture has a really cute cat in it that kind of reminds me of my cat Bonnie. But this is so great. And I think this comes up so often for us too, right? Where we can feel the tough feeling first. For me, it's guilt. I used to feel the feelings in my body that I liken to guilt. And then my mind goes, okay, must have done something wrong. Let me figure out what I did wrong. Could I have done these things wrong? And what you're doing, what you're saying here is so brave and awesome. Oh, it's just a feeling. Doesn't mean it's anything wrong. Don't have to fix anything. Don't have to do anything right now, and it passes. Love that. So great. Childhood Michigan education song. Great. Would you be able to address my question? Daryl, was that the question about the grief piece? Okay. I think I did. If I missed it, please let me know. But I think it was the grief component, but I want to make sure I didn't miss any questions, because I always like to get through all of these. Oh yeah, I think that's what people are. Yeah, I think that's what people are generally thinking. I think for many of us with OCD, again, the thumbs up, maybe I'm thinking way too far into this, but the thumbs up emoji kind of feels like a gray, where it's like, okay, cool. We want a big extravagant, yes, awesome, so excited, right? Because we see things as either this is really bad or this is really great. It's like, I can't make sense of the this. I automatically think that means something's really bad. I love the dare conversation here. Katie single-handedly blew up the IOCDF Ben and Jerry sponsorship. Oh, all the ice cream. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Lauren, this is definitely the $1 million question, and I get this a lot. I will say sometimes I even will make videos for family members, and they'll send them to their loved one who is not willing to get treatment. And when I do that, what I'll usually tell them is that ERP and that treatment is incredibly effective. And also there's uncertainty, and that I can't promise anything. But what I can promise is that what you've been doing up until this point isn't working, right? And that you can continue to go down this road and you can give up your life to OCD, or we can be willing to try something different. And often, rather than trying to convince them that treatment will work, I'll have them pick something that's really important to them and something that they want to move toward, and tell them, you have an opportunity, really just two choices: to continue doing what you're doing, or to try something different with treatment in favor of stepping toward this thing you care about. And I think that kind of value-driven piece sometimes can be really helpful, as opposed to showing them stats of all the reasons that treatment could work or couldn't work. But I'm also, Lauren, again, if you want to email me, I'm more than happy to kind of brainstorm and talk through this too. Yeah, Beth, I was sharing this earlier. So Ethan had his colonoscopy today that he was really nervous about. He did awesome. He was so brave and wonderful. And all of the results when he came out were really, really good. So that was a really big deal. Yeah, Chris, I am already thinking about that. Already thinking about having an ice cream party. So yes. Zach, I'm not going to put it on screen, but that's hysterical. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all so much for just being here tonight and for sharing, and of course, always for the love and the care that you offer one another in the chat, and that you offer me in showing up here. As we close out, I do want to remind y'all that right here, back here tomorrow, same spot on the IOCDF YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, X, I think like pretty much every platform you can possibly imagine. The Ask the Experts with Chris Tronston is here again tomorrow. And also want to note that the IOCDF is a donor-supported nonprofit, so we would encourage you to please consider making a donation at iocdf.org/donate if you enjoy this programming. And of course, just so glad to have so many of y'all here tonight. If you enjoyed this stream, it is sponsored by Stick with the Ick, which is an inclusive faith and OCD virtual community. We have many of our awesome Icksters here in the chat. You can head to faithandocd.com or stickwiththeick.com to learn more. And we are talking in that community all this week about the theme we talked about tonight, what if we're not good? Or what if we're not good enough? So we would love to have y'all as a part of that conversation. But for tonight, so glad that folks enjoyed this stream. And ooh, peanut butter sounds really good. Ben and Jerry sounds good too. I actually thought about making cookies tonight because Ethan's done with his colonoscopy. He's kind of going back to eating normal food. I don't often make like from scratch cookies, but I was thinking about doing it tonight. So that potentially could be on tap. Thank y'all for the kind words in the chat, and so glad that everybody enjoyed the stream. In terms of this stream, we will be right back here next Tuesday night. I think it's just Ethan, maybe me too. It might be a surprise, but somebody will be here. Yes, and Chris will have a psychiatrist on. Actually, let me verify. I should have had this up beforehand. Oh, he's going to have Jennifer Siegel on, Dr. Jennifer Siegel, right here, 12 p.m. Eastern. And Jennifer Siegel is awesome. So if folks have questions specifically about medication, that would be a fantastic place to go for that. So anyway, thank y'all so much. And I hope you have a beautiful night, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye, everybody.